Candid Frank Live, where you will find us Aaron Views here on the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate, leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now joining me is the one, the only Aaron William Freeland. Hey, Aaron, how you doing, buddy?
Good, Frank. How are you today?
Oh, just a little busy, a little haggard, I guess, is the only, and not Merle, just haggard, the other kind of haggard, not the Merle kind. But I guess I could be the Merle kind. That would be okay.
Been there, done that. Bought the T-shirt. Still wearing it.
All right, let's do our Candid Frank Live thing. Russia closing CBC's Moscow bureau. Like,
Yeah.
haven't they closed everything already?
Well, it's one of those things. They moved to close Canada's Radio Canada Moscow bureau and strip its journalists of their visas and accreditation, saying it was retaliating after Canada banned Russian state TV, Russian state TV station, Russia Today.
Yeah, RT.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's one of those things where, well, you did that to us, so we're going to do it back to you and see how you like it, sort of things.
Well, if it wasn't for the fact that the Russian people aren't getting all the news, as much as we can criticize our media, the one thing that you can say about our media, anybody can have an opinion anywhere, anytime, and we're going to hear it. Stupid, intelligent, bright, meh. You're going to hear it here. Free speech, while we hear a lot of people complain about it, I don't know if it's true or not, but I seem to sense that it's true that in Russia there is no such thing as free speech. If they put you in jail for protesting, I guess it's pretty safe to say that freedom of speech does not exist there.
Well, I mean, technically speaking, you're free to say whatever you want, but there are pretty immediate consequences. So,
Absolutely.
there's that.
Absolutely. But okay, maybe then speech that leaves you free.
There you go.
Speech that allows you to be free is the issue. Saskatchewan Housing Group. Oh, no, sorry. Israel approves ultra-nationalist Jewish march in Jerusalem.
Now, this is just weeks after the death of a Palestinian journalist.
Yes.
And the subsequent incident surrounding her funeral, where her pallbearers almost dropped her coffin. Now, Israeli authorities say they've given the go-ahead for Jewish nationalists to march through the heart of the main Palestinian thoroughfare in Jerusalem's Old City later this month. So that's, Internal Security Minister Omar Bar-Lev said the march would take place on May 29th along its customary route through the Damascus Gate. Now, again, this is something that does happen every year. And in most cases, they sing songs, and in some cases, chant anti-Arab slogans as they pass by Palestinian onlookers. So, in light of recent tensions, I'm not 100% sure if this is the most intelligent idea that's been had, but it's certainly something they're currently proceeding with.
There's so much I want to say, and there's so much I don't want to say. And there's so much I'm afraid to say. When it comes to the subject of Israel in Canada, in North America, in fact, it can be very dangerous. The truth does not set you free in this case, can get you barred for life from everywhere. What I will say about this is this. A reporter, American national, born Palestinian, the reporter you're talking about, was killed. We don't know 100% why. We just know that Israel has backpedaled in regards to how much responsibility they may have had in the incident. And please allow me to underline, may have had. Death is a horrible thing. And we just talked about the media and free speech. When the media is not safe, in our regular world, that's one thing. But to expect them to always be safe in the middle of war and gunshots and that kind of stuff, this is a real tough nut to crack. This is a Rubik's Cube, Aaron. and I've tried as gently as I could to speak down the middle some way, but there is no middle when it comes to the Mideast. That's the sad truth.
No, there is unfortunately a lot of conflict in the region. I mean, ever since Israel took over East Jerusalem in '67, incidentally, that's not a step that is actually internationally recognized. There's been all sorts of tension, and it goes all the way back to the decision in 1948 to arbitrarily displace Jewish people in that area. You know, I it's far too nuanced for my brain to take in. It's just unfortunate that we find ourselves in this situation, and for the most part, there is no resolution to be found.
As a person with no stake here, I just don't think that emotionally or verbally or socially poking a stick in somebody's eye who's already really riled up, angry, hurt, and all that kind of stuff doesn't seem like a good idea to me.
No, not in
On
the
either
slightest.
in either case, right? Speaking to both. Saskatchewan housing group says province needs to build 100,000 more units. What's up with that, buddy?
Well, there is a housing group that was currently looking into issues surrounding homeless and getting approval for more affordable homes. This group called the Saskatchewan Housing Continuum Network projects a deficit of approximately 100,000 housing units, which are required to match expected population growth over the next 8 years. Now, this includes the Saskatoon and Regina Home Builders Association, the Saskatchewan Landlords Association, and Habitat for Humanity. They're concerned that the growth in the housing market is not happening as fast as it should because everybody needs to live somewhere. And to put that 100,000 new homes in the next 8 years into perspective, Saskatchewan has only built 98,000 new housing units since 1990. So that's a bit of a concern.
What this does, even though the houses don't have to be by definition affordable, if you it's a regular business axiom, right? You know, availability means cheaper, right? So if there's less homes, those homes are more expensive. They become expensive by virtue of there not being enough. So
Yeah.
not I don't think this is a plan to flood the market, but input into the market where it makes basically a bit of a drag on the accelerating price of homes, which for someone like myself who's in one right now goes, oh yeah, please, my house has to be more expensive next year and the year after that. But for those who are trying to enter the housing market, who are trying to find a home, like you point out, it's a bit of a challenge,
Yeah.
and a little help sometimes would be nice in this situation for them. But again, you know, we all look at things from our own narrow perspective, and I'll try to look from the other side and say, I hope that they can work something out here so that people can afford to live in a home, a decent home, especially, you know, children, families, elderly. These are all people that, you know, they're not out all day. You know, they
Yeah.
home is a real big deal to them, you know. So there you go. PI province helps cover cost for glucose sensors for islanders with diabetes. Well, this seems
Now,
like a long time coming.
well, yeah, it's called the Glucose Sensor Program, which officially launches June 1st. This gives PE Islanders access to glucose sensor technology at a reduced cost through local PEI pharmacies. Now, out of pocket costs will be based on household income and the existence of private health insurance. But here's the thing there are 15,000 PE Islanders living with diabetes. On average, 860 Islanders are diagnosed with diabetes every year. So this program is expected to support 1,300 Islanders who require intensive management of their diabetes through multiple daily injections of insulin or an insulin pump. I mean, on average, sensors cost about $200 to $300 a month. So this program is designed to help curb that cost. The technology is available; it's just not affordable. So as it currently stands, PEI is going to be investing $1.1 million into the program to help cover those costs for Islanders who need it.
As a diabetic, I applaud this effort. Good for them. Ontario, it's time to forget bottles. You're in the can, baby.
Yeah, now it used to be people would look down on people who drank from cans. Oh, it tastes tinny. Oh, it's not the same thing. But here's the thing: cans ain't going nowhere. Due to skyrocketing glass prices, a global supply shortage of bottles, and retailers who prefer to stock cans just because they fit together better and you can put more of them wherever you're putting them, the trend has been away from bottles and more towards cans. You know,
Yeah,
it's
no, I
now getting to the point where grocery stores won't take bottles, so you have to
yeah,
can it.
yeah, you have to can it, and glass is shattering costs a
Yes,
little.
you could say the market for bottles is broken.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Bar fights are not going to be as as dangerous.
Well,
try
you
to
could still
break
get
a
a
try
wicked cut
to
from a
break a
can.
can. Try to break a can. Hang on, I got a can opener.
All it takes is a twist, and you got a nice sharp edge, Frank. I
There.
tell you.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. Well, you're the expert with
Hey,
cans.
tips for beer fights.
BC BC letters reveal what energy companies told RCMP before the raid.
Yeah, so in late April, RCMP officers walked into the Gidimteng camp near the confluence of Selkekwe, Lamprey Creek, and Maurice River. Their visits on unceded Wet'suwet'en territory had been a daily occurrence, but they finally actually started moving people out, and this was at the request of Coastal GasLink and at the request of other gas companies in the area. Basically, what had happened was it appeared that the RCMP were basically working as private security for these companies, which is not supposed to happen because they are a federal organization that is supposed to remain at arm's length from anything like this. So it's caused a concern.
Yes, I can see how that would be a concern. Premier of oil-rich Alberta steps down after leadership vote. What could he have possibly done wrong, Aaron?
I'm not sure, but he only got 51.4 percent support. Sorry, from party members. So
That's his party,
that's
not
yeah, that's the
Alberta's.
party that
Not,
he leads,
not
not Alberta
Alberta.
in general, just internally. The vote was conducted by a mail-in ballot. Um, so it's one of those things where I mean Kenny's been on top of the political heap in Alberta for at least the last decade. Um, Most recently deposing Rachel Notley as the premier of Alberta. Now, here it is. Oil is recovering. Jobs are not coming back as quickly as they'd hoped, but there seems to have been a rift within the party, and he's been ousted by his own folks, so he stepped down.
Well, you know my opinion on all I get off it is possible, but if we're going to have the Russians get to people and being who they are and doing what um, we've got to figure out how to make them insignificant. And while we're doing that, if our neighbors in Alberta can make a bit of change, it's pick your poison. Literally, this is the problem. Pick your poison. And speaking of picking your poison, electric air taxi will provide another option for people to move around the city.
So this is something that Eve Co. Has talked about. Their stock symbol is EVX, but basically they're trying to bring small electric hover cars into it, so you can if you need to get home earlier instead of taking a cab or the highway, you can just catch a flight. Um,
Nice.
yeah, so they're thinking of trying to make it comparable to the Uber X prices.
Oh,
Now, there's very little other details other than that, but Eve is also facing competition from Archer Aviation and another company called Joby. Now, this is for electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles. Now, the urban air mobility market is predicted to be worth about $760 billion. So, they're looking to try to capitalize on that market, that perceived market shortfall.
not such a bumpy ride. Kind of like a magic carpet. Speaking of innovation in transportation, Tesla removal from S&P index sparks debate.
Yeah, so they're part of the ESG index, and that's like ethical and social responsibility. They've been delisted from that. Part of it, I think, has to do with Elon Musk's on again and off again Twitter purchase. Um, you know, the ESG labeled funds are always highly contested, just based on the fact that it's really the ethical and social component that goes along with that is never been clearly defined. So it's always been a little bit up in the air. I guess at this point, based on what's going on, they've decided that they've decided to delist it. Now Musk basically flew off the handle at this, saying, "Yeah, well, it's a scam." I mean, his company's stock are already down almost 7%, and this is amongst a broad sell-off in tech shares. It's not just confined to Tesla, but there are other companies that are facing the hurt as well.
Well, there's some questionable. Well, I'm not one of those internet money people, but Anyway, Google's Russian unit will file for bankruptcy after authorities seized its bank account.
Yeah, now this is obviously no surprise. Russia is moving against any organization that could potentially provide information that runs counter to their programming. So, its bank accounts made it impossible for it to play vendors and employees. The company will still run its free services such as searches, YouTube's, and Gmail. But the unfortunate thing is Google and Russian relations kind of soured after the invasion of Ukraine. So that is what it is.
Terra Luna stablecoin, cryptocurrency in trouble. What?
Oh yeah, so this is something that we missed last week, Frank.
Okay.
Basically a stable company in Bitcoin, Terra USD, actually crashed. Its stock went from $119 to as low as 26 cents.
Wow.
So it really bottomed out. The problem is that in order to back up their funds, they had actually been using unsecured debt, as opposed to tying it to anything a little more stable. Now, UST is an algorithmic stable coin, which means that instead of having cash and other assets held in reserve, it uses a complex mix of code and Luna coin, which is another part of that to help stabilize it. It was supposed to be a governance token, which is a way to pretend that make-up Ponzi money is not make-up Ponzi money.
Okay. Ontario NDP alleges Liberals broke nomination rules in Chatham, Kent, Leamington.
So there's the usual shenanigans going on. We are leading up to an election, which is now just, I believe, 3 weeks away. June 2nd will be the election day. On May 12th, the Liberals announced that Audrey Festeriga would run for the seat after Alec Mazurek was removed, after social media posts containing homophobic slurs made in 2014 and 15 were released conveniently by the NDP. Now, the removal came just hours before the deadline to file nomination papers, which require the signatures of at least 25 electors in the riding. So that's thrown everything into confusion. And in the rush to name a new candidate, the NDP are alleging that they submitted their paperwork about 15 minutes before the deadline without the required number of 25 electors signing off on
it. Conservative Party investigate complaint by Patrick Brown, his team, about racist emails.
Yeah, so apparently the Conservative Party of Canada is now investigating a complaint lodged by Patrick Brown's leadership campaign. Calgary MP Michelle Rempel-Garner, who is helping Brown in the race, shared a screenshot on Twitter of an email that she says the campaign received from an active member of the party. Unfortunately, this hasn't been provided to press outlets, so they can't really verify that. They can only go on what the party is putting out. However, apparently the text that Rempel-Garner shared expressed support for Nazism and includes racist remarks directed at Black and Asian people. So I can only begin to wonder.
What year is it? What time is it?
Right? It's 2022. People, wake up.
Oh, my goodness. Liberal leader challenges Manitoba Premier in court for failing to disclose real estate sales. Who's real estate sales?
Well, here's the situation. Heather Stephenson, she's the Manitoba Premier, is fighting a formal complaint against her in court for failing to disclose real estate deals worth tens of millions of dollars in an apparent violation of provincial conflict of interest rules. Now, the case has been adjourned to a later date, but lawyers representing Stephenson said the premier would contest the matter. Douglas Lamont took a decision of taking legislative conflicts of interest complaint to the courts. Basically, what happened is apparently these deals worth approximately $31.2 million. The clerk of the Legislative Assembly was not notified within 30 days as required for the disposal of any asset. So now Stephenson says that she's already corrected the issue, but they're still pushing ahead with this.
Let's go to sports, and we'll go to cycling. In French, is stuck by your own petard, I think is what the term is. In this case, you poke your own eye with the cork of the wine. What's the matter for you?
So Eritrean cyclist Biniam Girmay, now he was celebrating winning one of the stages for the Giro d'Italia on Tuesday. Wednesday, he was forced to withdraw from the race because of a freak injury he sustained while celebrating. I don't know if you've seen the picture, but he was holding a Prosecco bottle against the handlebars of his bike, and the jarring apparently sent the cork right into his eye. So
both literally and figuratively, he got corked.
Yep.
Oh boy. Yankees report Yankees cut former third-round draft pick for allegedly stealing teammates' equipment. Excuse me?
Yeah, basically, Jake Sanford, who'd been making some strides in the organization, he was a third-round pick in the 2019 draft, but he was cut over allegations that he repeatedly hounded teammates for equipment such as bats and gloves and was turning around and selling them on eBay, and occasionally going so far as to just take it from their lockers. In addition to that, he was also selling his signature online on various things, would take the money for it, and then never deliver.
Oh, boy. Well, see ya.
Now, not all is not lost. The Yankees released him on May 12th, but he signed with the Ottawa Titans of the Independent Frontier Baseball League. So we'll have to
That would
see
be Ottawa in Canada?
That I'm not 100% sure of. I was looking for more information, but there's not a lot out there.
It
About
might
the
not
Independent
be
Frontier
Ottawa,
League.
Canada. I sure hope it isn't, because if it is, they'll hear about it soon. Oh no, this is just insane. And you know, sadly, you know, Aaron, not to take his side, because that's not what I want to do, because doing that kind of stuff, I don't promote that kind of idea. But it does speak to the fact that you have people who feel the need to make a couple of dollars at the expense of people who are making millions of dollars. So, you know, this I'm not comparing this to somebody stealing food to feed his family. That's not what I'm comparing this to. But it does kind of smack of, you know, the difference between a minor league contract and a major league contract.
No, it really does. And I know that there's always the perception out there that all the baseball players are millionaires. The fact of the matter is about 4 or 5% of them make the really big bucks. Everybody else is not making nearly as much money as they are. So,
and the 4 or 5% that you're talking about make about $1 million and a half, because the ones that really make a lot of dough are like 0.1%,
yeah,
0.0, you know, whatever. Anyway, no, not trying to defend this guy, but you know, it must be difficult to basically hang out with very rich people, knowing that, you know, you don't have that much. It's a tough emotional situation. I'm not giving it permission, but I'm just trying to be sympathetic to the fact that it must be tough. Soccer in Europe. Speaking of tough and athletes, let's talk about soccer instead.
Sure. So one of the stories that we're looking at here is a players' federation is actually quizzing a Paris Saint-Germain player, Idrissa Gueye, about the fact that he sat out a game in which players were supposed to wear rainbow-colored numbers on their jerseys to denounce homophobia. Part of the issue here is that where he is from, homophobia is punishable by 5 years in prison. So he didn't participate in the game this year. He also didn't participate in the game last year. Former Senegalese Prime Minister Abdoul Mbaye also threw his support behind Gueye, saying the PSG player is not homophobic. He just doesn't want his image to be used to promote homosexuality. So there's a parsing going on here that's like,
You know that
it's difficult.
this is where we can get in trouble, Aaron.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just look the other way this time. Nah, what the
Well,
hell? I love living dangerously.
I mean, the Federation.
One doesn't have to promote anything
No,
to be okay with it. You know, nobody nobody should be forced to promote anything because it's in some people's or most people's or belief that they should. What we should be more concentrating on, as far as punishing somebody is concerned, using negative commentary and being mean to people who are different. But if someone doesn't, you know, it's like, well, look at the word now on pro-choice and what's going on now in that it's getting very inflamed. Just because you're not pro-choice doesn't mean that you're against it. You're just of no opinion, and that's what I'm going to say. The parallel is for this guy. He just doesn't feel like he needs to be part of the promotion. But you know, still, we live in a world where we must be told and we must be compliant. And I'm just not a compliant person, so that's where that's coming from. So
no, understood. I mean, the French Soccer Federation's Ethics Council sent a letter to him saying, "Hey, look, your absence has led to many speculations that have been very widely interpreted as a refusal to take part in this operation to raise awareness of the fight against discrimination. Either these suppositions are baseless, in which case we ask you to express yourself without delay in order to stop these rumors. For example, in your reply to us, just take a picture of you wearing the jersey. If these rumors are true, we would like you to sit down and realize what your actions are doing to what we are trying to accomplish here."
I get it. I get
Yeah.
it. It just seems it smacks of bullying. That's all. You know, they're not asking him to stop doing something.
No, they're just saying, "Hey, dude, just take a picture with the jersey on. It's not a big deal." Well, not for us, at any rate. His personal
Yeah.
convictions may run deeper.
Well, it is what it is. As long as he doesn't, you know, as long as he isn't hurting people. Just you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is helping someone hurting someone? Is not helping someone hurting someone? That's I guess what we're talking about here. I guess right. I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to square this circle because to me it's a very round circle looking to be squared.
No, it's I'm not sure that I have any more valid opinion than anybody else on this sort of
Just
thing, but
uh, you know,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. You just you know, people sometimes. I'll say this: in a situation like that, if you're being told to do something, it gets harder to do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? When you're being told, it's harder to do, and you're not seeing clearly. You know, all I know is that if that was me, I'd wear the jersey and I'd say, "More power to you." You know, you have a right to be who you want to be. Um, which is why I'm saying what I'm saying, because I'm having difficulty telling somebody how to think in that regard. I have an
Yeah.
opinion as far as what I think. Uh, it's just difficult to tell somebody, you know, to turn their back on whatever beliefs they have that aren't harmful. I want to make that clear, that aren't aggressive and harmful. Canada, Johnson Hickox joined Hockey Canada to lead the Safe Sport Women's Initiatives.
So this is kind of neat. Natasha Johnson and Maureen Hickox have joined Hockey Canada. Now, Johnson was named Hockey Canada's Director of Sport Safety. This organization said in a release that she'll oversee its safe sport portfolio, which includes developing solutions to address player safety and maltreatment. As the Kyle Beach case has shown, sometimes organizations aren't where they need to be with this sort of
Oh,
thing. So having
hello.
a group to actually help promote that would be good. She's going to be working with Hockey Canada's 13 member organizations to promote inclusion as well. Maureen Hickox will lead the recruitment and retention efforts for women and girls hockey programs and work to increase the number of women in leadership, coaching, and officiating. Johnston most recently was the executive director of Ringette Canada. She also previously held roles with the Canadian Centre for Ethics in Sport and Football Canada. And Hickox, we used to work with Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment and and was an NHL marketing executive, as well as a member of the Women's Hockey Task Force for the inaugural Elite Women's 3-on-3 games, which was part of the NHL's All-Star Weekend.
Excellent. Watched
So, a
it.
lot of
Loved it.
qualifications there.
It was a
Glad to
lot
see
of
them
fun.
getting the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's stick with women in sport. South Korea in Toronto in June for a soccer friendly women's soccer team.
Yeah. Now, Canada is ranked sixth in the world compared to number 17 for South Korea. Canadian women last played in Toronto in May when they beat Mexico 3-0 in a friendly ahead of the last World Cup. This June game is to help the Canadians prepare for this summer's CONCACAF Women's Championship in Mexico, which serves as a qualifier for the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand and the 2024 Olympic Games in Paris. Canada is going to play in the opening CONCACAF W Championship group stage on July 5th against TNT before facing Panama on July 8th and Costa Rica on July 11th. This is cool because after winning gold last summer in Tokyo, Bev Priestman has talked all of the World Cup as the next mountain to climb. So they're definitely setting their sights. Now, just to bear in mind as we go forward here, the Canadian women are 7-1-0 against the Koreans. The last time they met them was in the Algarve Cup in March 2018, where they posted a 3-0 win. Canada is currently 2-1-2 this year, including a win over fourth-ranked Germany.
Absolutely. The Flames and Oilers, great game, incredible start to a series that one would have thought would have been a better defensive. Well, I guess we talked about the struggle defense versus offense, and this one here got ugly quick. And we talked about goaltenders. It'll be interesting. The next game is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, Mike Smith just did not get off to a good start. 2 goals on 2 shots. Basically, what that means is the Calgary Flames in their past 2 games have scored 3 goals on 3 shots.
Yikes.
The overtime winner and the first 2 shots of this game, he was finally pulled about 5 minutes into the first period. And Koskinen came into play, who really didn't necessarily do all that much better, but at least was slightly more consistent in that the first 2 shots.
He had a higher than 800 percentage.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a bit of a back and forth game. Not gonna lie, very exciting to watch. A lot of fun, but also a lot of wet.
My biggest disappointment with the Leafs being knocked out is we'll have to do it with the Red Mile, which well, they call it red lot tickets, and what they're referring to is what was known as the Red Mile the last time the Calgary Flames went on a tear in the National Hockey League playoffs.
Yeah, now basically it's a long stretch that they've actually blocked off. They've actually officially cordoned it off and banned parking in certain areas. And it's the ban is going to affect 17th Avenue Southwest between McLeod and 9th, and 11th from 1st Street to 5th Street. For any of our Calgarian viewers out there, you'll know the areas to try to stay away from. On home game nights, the city is going to add extra transit service, as well as, provide additional safety for that area.
Second round, Aaron. This is the second round.
Yeah.
Second round.
Can you imagine how insane it's going to be if Calgary makes it to the finals?
Well, I can tell you one thing for sure. Edmonton's not going to like it. Don't give up. Hey, listen, don't give up on Edmonton. I mean, if this turns into that game was a Calgary win at home, first game. I think the second game, this could go 7 games. The talent in this series is just way too much. 4 of the players scored over 100 points. Are playing in this series. So we knew going in that they could score. We just didn't think that they would score that much.
Yeah, this is, one of those pleasant surprises, and I'm really hoping this series does actually go 7. I know it's detrimental to your future chances of winning the cup down the road.
You know how I feel about a Canadian team making it there. So, on the good news, like we said last time, guaranteed there's going to be a Canadian team in the conference final. Guaranteed, not both of them are going. It is what it is, I guess. The Hurricanes, Ian Cole scores a goal, and they beat the Rangers in OT, a game that they were behind 1-0, and it was a great comeback for this Hurricane team.
Yeah, that was absolutely fantastic. One of those games where they couldn't seem to solve Shesterkin, in the slightest. Igor had their number the entire game through. So instead of trying to beat him directly, Ian Cole, sorry, managed to actually bank it off one of their defensemen in front of the net.
Yeah,
It was a lucky shot that hit his stick and just
Karam.
beat Shesterkin. So, but yeah, Aho finally scoring a goal at 2:23 remaining in the third to send the game to OT. Huh, absolutely nutty. Oh, I wanted to just mention something briefly about the Calgary game. The other Kachuk brother was in attendance.
Yes, with his father.
With his father.
Drinking beer out of a can.
Of course. They're salt of the earth.
Out of a can, not a bottle.
Yeah. But when
tasted a little metally, but it was okay.
When Kachuk actually scored his hat trick into the empty net, his dad Keith refused to throw his hat.
Ooh.
Everybody else did.
Ooh.
Keith
Well, he has a little reputation about being frugal.
Well, I mean, I've seen.
I don't know how that impacted his reputation.
I've seen his cap friendly page. He can afford another hat.
That's just crazy. We heard the story about Mitch Marner and his fiance. He personally confirmed the story. It wasn't confirmed by the police, but great reporting. Let us know what was going on. We all heard about it, and we all worry about people, period, when we hear about this kind of stuff, Aaron. And carjackings have gone up. If you watch American news, folks, don't kid yourself. A lot of that stuff that you're seeing in American news is happening here in Canada, and the police are doing the best they can to nab these folks. There's a lot of money in stealing cars.
No, there certainly is. I can't help but feel that because of who was carjacked, it's now going to get the attention that it should have been receiving all along by the media. And it's unfortunate.
Aaron, we do a sports show. We know better. I mean, this is the way it is. I mean, they're idolized. And on the same token, Aaron, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to say, well, too bad, he's got a lot of money. He can replace that car. So it's not just about over sympathy for guys like Mitch Marner. There's also people who basically almost enjoy the suffering of stars. But I think we as people up and down wherever road or word or world you live in, nobody would like to see this happen to anyone. And if this helps the police in getting more done when it comes to this kind of situation, all the better. I mean, the result is what matters in this case, right? Less crime, more criminals caught, people understanding how to behave in these circumstances. People need to be reminded that we said it last show, you said it quite eloquently. Nothing is worth a person's life. There is nothing that's more valuable than a person's life.
Interestingly enough, apparently the Toronto Sun has a source that relayed that the carjackers did not know their target was actually Mitch Marner. They just wanted the vehicle. They didn't care who was driving it. So,
well, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I mean, a Leaf fan would never do anything like this.
Wow. No.
Now, a Bruin fan. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. No. Well, you know what? We've got a couple of minutes, 3, maybe 4. What do you think of the way the elections work in the U.S. Primaries? Do you know anything about it? If I ask you, am I putting you on the spot, or do you have an idea? Or do you want me to preface my question and be more elucidating? Here's what I'm going to say. Primaries basically, for the people out there who don't know, in the U.S., you have to run against a fellow Republican. You have to run against a fellow Democrat. But independents don't count in this. Independents don't run in these, right? So, and so what happens is, now you're running in one audience, and then you're running in the opposite audience. So then what happens is if you're a Republican, bat excrement crazy can get you in the primary and winning a primary. But then you got to go for everybody, right? And then all of a sudden that person isn't as attractive as they are within their group. And the same is true for the people who are Democrats, that, a person who's left-leaning, more left-leaning, might have a better shot at getting the primary victory and going up for the election. How do you think this affects government and the election process?
Well, I mean, the issue here is that you're not finding the best candidate for the country as a whole. You're finding the best candidate for his or her specific region of the United States, right? So if you're running in a primary in a certain electoral district against a certain other person, and let's just say you've spoken out and mentioned coke-fueled sex parties.
Oh boy.
You might all of a sudden be less palatable to your voters than you were 4 years ago,
and you may resign
when you were the young ingenue whose unfortunate car accident caused him to be passed over by the Naval Academy and that sort of thing. It happens, but unfortunately the electoral system is set up to be locally popular and universally barely palatable if possible. So one of the cases I can think of in particular would be Madison Cawthorn, who recently lost his primary. So that's a relief to some of the people that voted for him before.
What they refer to as primaried.
Yes.
Which basically is a large group of not his constituents, but his fellow politicians in his group decide we don't like him. And then they move heaven and earth to make sure he doesn't win.
Yeah.
So and that's what they did.
And basically that's the way it worked out. It's unfortunate for Madison, but at the same time, at least now he's not sucking off the public teat. And they hopefully can find somebody else that is more palatable to the country in general and less of a jerk. I guess.
I'm going to take a few seconds and expand on what you said. The point being, folks, that if you're running for chief bottle washer and you're running against a group of people that think like you, when it's time to run against everybody else, you're not thinking of the country, you're thinking of your group. So now what you're doing is you have two people on opposite ends having a debate and or going for an election. So what happens is you end up with, I think, a loser either way, because you're dealing with someone who is not interested in the community as a whole. They're only coming to deal with their specific group's concerns, and politicians need to be more than that. They need to be concerned about making government work, and thank goodness we don't have that. I am so grateful in Canada we don't have primaries. We have our own version of that, but it's less about finding the lowest common denominator on each side of the equation and hoping for the best. It doesn't work that way. Aaron, this was great. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it, and I apologize for being late.
Hey, that's not a problem, Frank. We'll see our way through it, and we'll see you on Monday.
You betcha.
Or Wednesday, depending, because Monday is Victoria Day.
Oh, okay. You planning? Never mind. All right. Enjoy Victoria Day, folks. Enjoy. This is when everybody goes to their trailers and cottages to open them up officially. When everybody goes. And so living in Mississauga, where Aaron does, the streets are pretty empty.
Not complaining.
I know you're not. I didn't. Thank you, Aaron. For Aaron William Freeland, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live. Aaron Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out spanglishworld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Ciao for now.